Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of Girl You Know It. We're so glad that you're joining us for season 5 as we delve into important topics surrounding Black women and our health. For those of you tuning for the first time, Girl You Know It is an offshoot podcast of Black Women Connects Vancouver. Black Women Connect Vancouver is a collective of women and femmes who come together to inspire, empower, and leverage our strength as we embrace our diverse experiences. It's a community where folks in Vancouver can build meaningful relationships and celebrate the beauty of Black womanhood. Girl, You Know It is a space where we can create connections in different ways, talk about our shared experiences as Black women in a serious, fun, and everything in between. I'm your host, Natizia Mukwavi, I am the founder of Black Women Connect Vancouver. And let me pass it on to my other co-host.
Hello. My name is Abby. I am the project coordinator of Black Women Connect Vancouver. And so excited to be here.
Yes, our very first episode of the season. We do miss our past co-host, Elle. You are missed.
You are missed.
And hopefully you'll come back. Yes. So we have a guest today, and her name is Thandi Watkins. Did I say your last name right?
Yep.
Oh, okay. So do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
This is like my first podcast, guys.
I love it.
We love her.
So I'm so
yes.
excited. You've made my dreams come true. Anyway, I'm Thandi Watkins, and I am originally from South Africa. I have been in Canada for 6 years now. And yeah, I'm married with 2 babies, and yeah, life is busy.
Yes. I'm sure.
I bet.
So thank you so much for joining us today on an important topic. So let me start by saying October is the Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Month. And so before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that October is the Pregnancy Infant Awareness Month, with October 15th specifically being recognized globally as Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day. This day is dedicated to remembering and honoring babies who were lost to miscarriage, stillbirth, sudden infant death syndrome, which is also known as SIDS, ectopic pregnancy, termination for medical reasons, or death of a newborn. We recognize the profound grief and the pain that comes with such a loss. And we hope that today's episode provides support and comfort and a sense of community to anyone else who has been affected. So our guest today, Thandi, who has introduced herself, is bravely chosen to share her personal story in hopes of breaking the silence and the stigma around pregnancy and infant loss. So thank you so much for joining us. Yes. So can you share with us your story? Which one led you to, I asked you to join. So nothing led you. I led you to come share your story. But can you tell us a little bit about your story, wherever you want to first begin, and then we can kind of go from there.
Yeah. I am honestly so privileged that I can share my story. And yeah, like you said, I hope this can help someone, anyone. So, like I said, I have 2 babies, and sure. So I first fell pregnant at the beginning of 2019, and obviously first pregnancy, first baby, whatever, and I obviously had a miscarriage. My husband thinks I was 16 weeks, but wow. I'm convinced I was like bordering 15 weeks. Okay. So somewhere along those lines. And it was the craziest, most emotionally draining time of our lives because we had just moved here in 2018. So we were fairly new. And so number one, you kind of have to learn the medical system.
Yes.
Which is very confusing.
Yes, it is.
So you kind of have to learn the medical system, how things work. In South Africa, you can have a midwife and a OB, whereas here you have to have, you can only have one or the other. So that was just really shocking to me. So on that day, I need to give you context. My husband had been sick for 2 weeks already, and he couldn't we didn't have a family doctor at the time, so we ended up going to some random walk-in clinic. And on the way there, I felt like a sharp pain. And, you just know.
Yeah.
So we get to the doctor, he gets seen, he gets told that he has bronchitis, pneumonia, and pink eye.
Oh, all three.
What a
So
collection.
like, okay, cool. So then I remember asking the doctor who was there if she could check me quickly because I felt something was wrong.
Yeah.
I told her that I'm pregnant. It's the first pregnancy. And I don't know what to expect. I mean, I've never been pregnant before.
Yeah.
And I remember she told me that she cannot do that because she's not my family doctor. And I was a bit confused because I'm like, but you're not my husband's family doctor.
Yeah.
We this is a walk-in clinic.
Exactly.
And anyway, whatever. So we made it to emergency and waited for hours and basically got told, you go for the scan and you still wait for the results. And I got told that I had a miscarriage. And I was, obviously I was shocked, and I'm still dealing with the fact that my husband has pink eye. But anyway, we drive home and then it kind of hits you. And they kind of just told me that, you got to let your body do its thing.
Yeah.
And then they referred me to Jim Patterson, which is an outpatient clinic. And I met with someone there and they gave me these 2 pills to take. And it was just a whole bunch of information. And I was and no one really explained anything. And you kind of just got given a pamphlet to read. Anyway, so I went the way where your body just does its thing, and to sort of get rid is the wrong word, but just
MTO. The
yes,
yeah.
And one thing I didn't expect for my water to break.
Oh.
I didn't expect to actually have contractions, and so that all happened I think it was 2 days later. And what happened was I needed to go to the toilet, and I was sitting on the toilet, and after I had, sorry, this is TMI, but after I'd wiped, I could see my baby in the toilet bowl, fully developed.
Wow.
So that was probably the hardest thing for me to go through. And I remember sitting there crying, and I called my husband and I was like, I cannot flush the toilet. Like, how does any parent or woman have, go through that? So so that evening kind of just crying and trying to process everything that's happened. And then I realized that my placenta was stuck.
Oh my God.
And what I mean stuck is that, once again, TMI, but it was stuck where I can see it between my legs. It was just hanging there.
Wow.
And I couldn't. And I mean, I tried pulling it and it was starting to tear and I didn't know what was happening. So obviously you go back to emergency and I'm trying to explain all this to the doctor. And so yeah, they did the whole procedure where they had to sort of like kind of go in and scrape it off. So yeah, it was a very traumatic experience. And then 2 weeks later, my husband's dad died. So it was a heavy month for sure. And all I can say is that I wish I knew that more like what it actually means to have a miscarriage.
Yes.
And I know it's different for different women and you go through different things. And I know some women, they have to go through the whole process of a DNC and all of that. But I wish I knew that I was going to go into labor. And I think you don't really know what to expect. You don't know how your body is going to, sort of like deal with the whole thing. But I wish I had that information because I think I would have prepared myself mentally, emotionally. But yeah, I I think even now it's just, I feel like I have trauma every time I go to the bathroom. And when you have like a heavy period and I'm just like, and mind you, I'm not even pregnant at the time, but it's just,
your body remembers the trauma.
It takes me back to that day. So and I mean, from then obviously fell pregnant again, and I had my toddler, and then we tried again, and I had a miscarriage there as well after her. That was a chemical pregnancy. I think that's the correct term for it. Which is also just, I mean, I've heard of chemical pregnancies before, but then once again, when you're in the moment and, you've taken all these pregnancy tests.
Explain a little bit about a chemical pregnancy.
So my understanding, and I mean, please correct me if I'm wrong, is you miss your period and you take a pregnancy test and it comes back as positive. And so your HCG levels are obviously high and show that you're pregnant. And it was funny because I think a week later, something just, pushed me to take another pregnancy test, which I did, and it came back negative. So then I was like, oh, is it like a what is it? A false positive? Yeah. So I took 2 more, and they came back negative. And then I went to the doctor, and they took the blood test and all of that, and they said, no, it is negative. So basically, my HCG levels dropped to the point where they were undetectable. And how the doctor explained it to me is that like your egg, so the egg met with the sperm, but it implanted, but it could have implanted in the wrong position, on the wrong place. And I mean, once again, they don't really give you all the details because I don't even know if there is that much information about it. But so it was a chemical pregnancy. Wow. So then I fell pregnant again with my youngest, and we tried again after her. She's 16 months now. And I was pregnant a month ago, and I had another miscarriage. So and it was another chemical pregnancy as well. So I never knew that you could still get miscarriages even after you've had a baby. So I mean, maybe that's just my ignorance, but I didn't think it would happen again.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, those are, I think, for you to say that is because we're just not having conversations about it, right? Because most times people kind of say like, oh, you might have a miscarriage, and it's kind of like a one-time thing, but there's some women I've talked to, they've had like 5, 6, you know what I mean? And we don't talk about that either because it's just not a conversation, and there's still so much shame surrounded around having a miscarriage because your body is not doing what it's supposed to do as a woman, or you're not doing something right, or you ate this, or you did something wrong to make a miscarriage happen. And that's just not even a fact. There's so many, like you said, you didn't implant properly, maybe the sperm and the egg, they just weren't a match at that time. There's genetic reasons. There's so many things that will contribute to a miscarriage more than you didn't do the right thing, or, it's your body, it's your fault. But that's something that we put on ourselves when it comes to having a miscarriage. What were some kind of your immediate feelings during, I guess, all 3, or you can talk about one specific when you hear, okay, it's another miscarriage, or okay, I'm having a miscarriage, because that first pregnancy, that's like an excitement around, we just got married, we're having a baby, and then it's kind of like that grief hits you, or the shock and the sudden feelings.
Well, definitely with the first miscarriage, because I feel like that was a whole event. I think the first thing that came to mind is my body has failed me. Like, what did I do wrong? And I remember a friend of mine calling me, and she was just like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, why has my body failed me? Like, what did I do wrong? And she's like, it wasn't you. These things happen. And I'm like, but why do they happen? Like, I had questions, and I still don't have answers, but I was disappointed in myself, disappointed in my body. You know, you're trying to figure out like, oh, what did I do wrong? Did I eat something wrong? Did I, you know, did we, I don't like it. It's just a whole bunch of questions that probably won't get any answers to. Because no one's talking about it, because, I don't know if like shame or people think that it's because it is a heavy topic. I mean, that people just avoid talking about it altogether.
And for you, like 16 weeks, 15 weeks is really far along, you know, that like that's past the let's announce it stage.
Exactly.
And so it's like you don't even think about that's like a possibility.
So that's what's so shocking. I'm like, we kept it for 3 months, you know, the whole 3 months thing, and you know, it's like the danger zone. So it was shocking. But then again, it makes you think of the woman who have stillborns and like, because that's like way.
And you still have to go through the childbirth and, you know.
Which is
crazy.
Insane. I actually, a very close friend of mine at church, she felt her first baby at 36 weeks. And that no words. Like I don't know how she did it, honestly, because
And I think with miscarriage, 1 in 3 women experience a miscarriage. And when you think about that, like, you know, there's 3 of us here. And like for me as well, like I've experienced a miscarriage and that was my first pregnancy as well. But sometimes I'll sit in a room and I already know people who've gone through miscarriage and I'm like, okay, it is 1 in 3 because it literally would be in those situations. And that just shows how common it is, you know? And I think for me, so when I got pregnant, what was that? It was 2021, the fall of 2021. So we had just gotten married, and got pregnant, and it wasn't really like expected or anything. So it wasn't like, you know, like we're going to have a baby. And so it just kind of happened. And I don't even, sometimes I think I block it out. My trauma experience is I block things out. So sometimes I have to process it again. So I felt pregnant. It was just kind of like a shock, but also very exciting for us because we're just like, oh, you know, newlyweds. And I got pregnant. And then I think it's a little bit of a complicated story. So it's also navigating the healthcare system. So I took the tests and then we're like, okay, we're pregnant. So we're like, okay, told my doctor, she's like, okay, schedule your ultrasound, do all these things. Like at 8 weeks, we're going to do the ultrasound. So we had gone to do an ultrasound, the 8-week one. The tests were all positive, everything, blood work, all those things. And the tech is like, I don't see anything. And I was like, well, okay, well, obviously, like I'm pregnant. And she kept being like, are you sure? How far along are you? She kept asking me how far along. And I was like, I don't know. She's like, well, maybe you're just like 5 weeks in. And you know, you can't really see it at all. And so I asked my friend who's also a doctor and she's like, yeah, if you are like 5 weeks, maybe it's like miscalculated that they wouldn't see it. So just wait it out. So I was like, okay, we told our doctor, she said the same thing. Like, okay, like a couple weeks, then we'll like do again. So we had scheduled another ultrasound to go to the doctor again. And then I don't even remember if it was that week or the week after, I just like woke up in the middle of the night and I had this like cramping feeling, but it wasn't even like period cramps or anything. It was just like, the best way to explain it is like, it's like something being scrambled, but it was painful. And it's like, like that, like that's what it felt like. And then I kept spotting and I was like, So I messaged some of my friends and I was like, did you spot? They're like, yeah, I spot. But I was like, but I have these cramps. Like we didn't have cramps. And I was like, okay, so this clearly isn't okay. So then I was like, okay, went to the ER, I'm pretty sure. And then our healthcare system is terrible. We were there for 9 hours.
9 hours.
9 hours, just waiting, telling them like, okay, I think I'm having miscarriage, just don't know. So there for 9 hours, did the the doctor at the time was like COVID as well. So it's like, 2021 was still like, you know, so it was longer wait time. Like now everyone can go to the hospital. That was that time. And so everyone was there for no reason. I feel like people just were just there to just be there. And so the doctor finally came. I got checked out. I think she checked me out at like 4 a.m. Yeah. Because we arrived, I think like 5 o'clock. Yeah, it was so long.
Oh my goodness.
So we're just like, all right. So got checked out. And then she's like, okay, well, like you have this kind of like hole where we would say like, okay, you're probably having a miscarriage. So she's like, you probably are. So here's an ultrasound, like requisition, come in tomorrow morning. Like they'll call you, but I was able to come in the next day. My tech was so great because the techs aren't allowed to tell you anything. He was like, because he knew I had to go back up and the doctor's going to talk to me. And he was just like, it looks like you had a miscarriage. He's like, blah, blah, blah. Explained everything to me. I know that they're like probably legally not supposed to. But he told me everything and I still had to go back up. So he's like, you have to go to talk to your doctor. But he explained everything that was happening to me. And I was like, well, there's not really a point because I already have my family doctor. They're going to send everything. So because we went up there and they're like, yeah, the wait's probably like another 10 hours. I was like, 10 hours?
Oh my God.
I'm tired. I was like, I'm exhausted. I feel like heavy, like I cannot stop bleeding. Like it was just exhausting for me. So went home and like was just bleeding, clotting, everything, like heavy. And finally saw my doctor and she's like, just wait till it just like everything comes out. And I was like, okay, waited a week, still heavy bleeding, nothing. I was like, went to the ER again. And they're like, well, this is like, you just have to let it go. And I was like, this is just not working. So I called my friend who's a doctor. She's like, go to like this hospital and just say this, and this. And I was like, okay. So I told them like over exaggerated all the things. And because that was the only way they were going to see me. So waited at that hospital for 5 hours. And then she was like, she came in and she was a resident and was just like, okay, these are your options. You can either take like the pills like you took or you can do a DNC. And I was like, well, to be fair, like I've been bleeding for like probably 3 weeks now. Like I would just rather just do the DNC. So got scheduled for a DNC the next morning and still COVID time. So it's chaotic in there. Everything was just, it's just a lot. And I got admitted to do the DNC when I arrived to the hospital. And then the surgeon who was going to come in and do the DNC was like, well, your numbers have gone down. Like, do you just want to wait it out again? And I was like, no, I've been bleeding for 3 weeks. Like, I just don't understand why I would do that. So I just advocated for myself. I was like, I would just rather just do the DNC. And I mean, I get it because there's obviously risks when you do DNC and they tell you about it. And, I was like, I just feel like there's something wrong. So I did the DNC and then she had written a note for me, like the nurses or whoever had come check on me and was like, you did the right thing. There was like contact stuck in like wherever area. And so, because if I had waited, I would have just gone septic. And you know, if I like, cause you know, you just like, keep being told, wait it out, you know, it's going to be fine. And so I was like, okay, so did the DNC and I was like, still kind of like, you know, you still bleed and stuff and like that. But like, I remember we had a Black Women Connect event and it was like a movie premiere, I think. I don't remember which one. On the way back, I was sitting in the front seat of my friend's car and it was just like all of a sudden like, it was like blood everywhere. And I was like, I am so sorry because it wasn't my car, but it's like, they don't even tell you about those things. Like I got like, it's just so many things. And I just, for me, because my pregnancy was so early on, it was like the physical that was just so heavy on me mentally and emotionally because I just was losing so much blood and it was like affecting my ability to do anything because all I could do was sleep. And then it's like, so I feel like I never really got to process the actual grief of it because I was just bleeding for so long. Like I looked back at my messages because I think I blocked it out again. And I think I bled for like a month straight.
My goodness.
Just heavy. And then once I was able to get my DNC, because I did the ER 3 times, went to my doctor as well. And my doctor also after was like, apologized to me. She's like, I should have just like, she's like, I should have scheduled a DNC for you because obviously like you knew what was going on in your body. So she did apologize, but I felt like no one was listening to me. I felt like I had to just keep fighting for it. And I'm grateful that I have friends in the medical system to be able to tell me exactly what to do. But then I think about all the women who go through it and they don't know the things to say, the things to do. And yeah, it was just really hard for us because like my husband's also American, so he couldn't be like, okay, well, this is what we should do, or like know how to navigate the Canadian healthcare system, like you said, because he didn't know. And so I feel like it was just like a lot of back and forth, sleepless nights of us trying to figure out, and he doesn't know what to do because it's like, you can't do anything for me, like other than just like lay here with me, you know, like, so it was just like, it was a lot. And I think that's when I was like, I don't think people talk about this. Like I wouldn't like, you know, because usually when I hear like miscarriage stories, it's kind of like, oh, they lost their baby. And that's like the end of the story. Like no one tells you about the physical aspect of what your body goes through that affects you emotionally. Because I do feel that, you know, if you hadn't like seen your baby or, you know, like all those things that like, what, like, that's even a thing. Like we don't talk about it. And so I just think, yeah, those initial like moments as well, the physical aspect, we don't talk about like that affects our grief process because some people do have delayed grief. Yeah. You know, it's not I lost my baby, because we're still processing what we just experienced physically for us to even be like, okay, now, you know, like, how do we try again? Do we wait? You know, because they say you can try again right after, which is like, are you sure? Yeah. So I don't know.
It's funny. Sorry. Thinking back to the first miscarriage, after I had the ultrasound, and basically my technician didn't tell me anything. So I went back into the waiting area and waited. And then the doctor called me in, and this has shocked me because once again, I was not expecting this, is he kind of just told me the bad news in the hallway.
What?
Standing. We didn't sit down. We didn't go into a room. Like there was no care. And I remember standing there, and once again, it's 29 in the middle of COVID, so everyone's in masks and you know, and everything. And my husband's standing next to me, and you know, he says, "Oh, I've looked through your ultrasound, and unfortunately, you have had a miscarriage." And I'm just standing there staring at him, and it's like this awkward moment of us staring at each other. And then I kind of turned and looked around, and like, I'm standing in a hallway, and he it didn't.
Lost your child. It
was so overwhelming, but also just wow.
Yeah.
And I'm like, do other women go through this? Like, this is bad. This is the most vulnerable I've been, and there's no care. There's no, you know, empathy, sympathy. It was just a lot. And I remember driving home, and I was saying to my husband, I was like, why didn't we get taken into a room or something? Like, it was just, you know, just those questions. So yes, our medical system needs to improve.
Yeah. And so for you, how did you feel that you coped with the grief?
I honestly have no idea.
Yeah.
This is like, because so much happened that month. So it's like we were trying to deal with my husband being sick. Then we had the miscarriage, and then his dad passed away. And actually another thing is that he was then put on performance review at work. So it was it was just a lot. So I remember this one day, it was after we had heard that my husband's dad has passed away. I was just lying in bed. I was so tired from crying. And I was just lying there, and I was thinking to myself, I don't know what to do. Like, what happens now? Because it was the day after I'd been back to the outpatient for just a checkup to make sure that everything is okay. And yeah, I was told, oh, you can try again next month. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. So I was just lying there, and I'm like, I mean, I guess we can try again, but I'm like, do I want to try again? I don't want to, because you're like traumatized. Exactly. I'm like, I don't want to go through this again. Like, what if it happens again? What if it's worse this time, you know? And so I honestly don't know how I got through, but I remember just sleeping a lot and just, I mean, that's how I deal with most things.
Yes, me too.
I honestly just, I sleep it off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the sun will rise tomorrow. It's another day.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of sleeping and a lot of, I kind of helping. I mean, my husband and I were kind of just helping each other along because he's also dealing with
his
stuff,
grief.
So what did help though is we had a little community that we had sort of developed through church. So we had friends that did check up on us, which was very helpful. So not thinking about meals and all of that was very helpful as well. So I really do appreciate that. And just, having those friends to just check in on you and like, are you okay? Obviously you're not okay, but it's knowing that they're there and they care. And sorry, going back with that pregnancy, I had a midwife and another thing that shocked me is when I told her that I was on the way to emergency and I called her and I was like, I think this is what happened or whatever. That was the last time I heard from her.
What?
So, so even there, I was just shocked. She
shocking.
Didn't call in again to check up on me. And I remember saying to my husband, I'm like, I cannot believe that this is happening. Like, is this, and that's when you start questioning, like, is this the norm?
Exactly.
Or is it just
this
me?
country?
Or I'm like, is it because I'm a person of color?
Yeah.
Because you start, all these questions start popping up and you're like, what did I do wrong? Who can I go to? Who do I speak to? So that was also a shock for me because I was like, surely, because you hear that, midwives are more caring and there's like that whole one-on-one thing and, they take you through the whole pregnancy and the aftercare and all of that. And because then I'm thinking, is it because I had a miscarriage? Like, is there no aftercare because you had you don't have a baby, so there's nothing for, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's all these questions, and because you kind of in the moment and you're dealing with the grief and trying to navigate the medical system, you don't know who to speak to, so it was a lot.
Yeah,
it definitely was a lot. But I think our church community was very helpful at the time. I would have appreciated if I had care from
the healthcare
system, because that's what they're there for.
Exactly. Yeah.
They should be the ones who are answering all the questions and providing the care and the info, all the details and filling in all the details.
Yeah.
So,
do you feel like after that experience, you did receive that care?
I mean, I didn't go back to getting a midwife again.
Yes.
So I kind of just avoided that. But yes and no. My two babies, I gave birth at a completely different hospital. And that one is, I think the care there was a lot better than what I received at the other hospital. But I think that's also because I'm grateful for my husband because he did study health science and all of that. So he knows, the language to use and, what to say and what to ask. And so he did advocate for me a lot.
Yes.
And I mean, also I think being a person of color, you do have to speak out more. And ask more questions and advocate for your own health. So I am grateful that my husband was there to do that for me. But I mean, I think about women out there who, once again, who don't have that and who don't have access to, oh my goodness, even just having a family doctor, So all those things. So yes and no.
Yeah.
Yes, because my husband was, I guess, fighting on my behalf.
Yes.
And he was there asking the right questions and making sure that everything went well. But I mean, even the delivery with my 2 girls, that was also very traumatic.
Yes.
But now I'm thinking, I had my husband advocating for me, but I'm thinking if he wasn't there, would it have gone worse?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because there were moments where I was like, I can feel the pain. Don't carry on. Don't continue cutting me because I can still feel the pain.
Yes.
You know, the spinal block hasn't kicked in yet. And so just those little things, like I'm grateful for my husband, but once again, there are women out there who don't have that.
Yeah.
And it's very sad, really.
Yeah.
I just don't understand why I have to fight for you to actually hear me.
I know. Yeah. And you hear those horror stories too. And I find, did you know that Canada has no statistics for Black women in the healthcare system?
Yeah, they use
There's
the American.
absolutely no statistics for Black women
That is
in
crazy.
Canada. It's crazy. So we use the American statistics and it's changing now. I saw there's some studies happening out in Toronto to be able to start having statistics, but they've never had that. So we can't even gauge to see our experiences. We can't even gauge to see if there has been deaths, wrongful deaths when it comes to miscarriages, stillbirth, anything to do with loss and also childbirth. So it's very interesting. And I think that that's also why we have a hard time navigating the system because we don't talk about it and because they don't even advocate for us because we're not even on the list to be seen. And so it's a frustrating situation. And I think that that's what made me research it a lot more is after my experience. And then of course, getting pregnant again and being like, there's nothing out there. Like it's actually crazy because whatever happens in America, I feel like sometimes trickles down into, you know, people are the same. So it should be the same in Canada. And it's not true. The way we've migrated into this country is different. And, you know, there's so many things that play into part. And so, yeah, it's I don't know. It's been interesting navigating this healthcare system and also now wanting to advocate a lot more for Black women and having those conversations. I find that I'm also more wanting to be in those spaces too, just to be able to share, but also advocate for those who may not have those resources or know where to go. And yeah, I don't know. I think, yeah, it's weird. It was a weird and also kind of like depressing experience because you're just like, oh, okay, like no one actually cares about Black women in this country because what? Like I was actually very shocked to hear that. Did you find your experiences affected your relationship with your partner, friends, family? Like as you were going through your grieving process or just anything, did you find that there was tension there or it was harder to process or because, you know, it's an experience that you are going through. It's a physical, emotional experience. People can like have empathy, as you said, but ultimately it's yourself, you know, were there moments of rage, anger, sadness, or you felt that, you know, you felt heard and seen and all those things or, yeah.
I think with my husband, we kind of just dealt with it together. Because he was going through, I was going through. So I think that brought us a lot closer.
Yes.
But I think because we're both from South Africa and like I said, he studied healthcare there and all of that. So he already had an understanding of how the healthcare worked in South Africa, obviously, but also that, I mean, South Africa, people of color, it's like 80%.
Yes.
You know, so he already kind of had an understanding that, yeah, there's this whole misconception that Black women can handle pain more or for longer and whatnot. Yes. So for him, he thought it was just, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And not true. So he already had all that info. He really understood. And I mean, for him, obviously having married my husband is white, sorry, just to give context. He, having married a Black woman, he kind of knew what he was signing up for, you know? He educated himself. But But now moving to a new country and now trying to navigate the medical system here, he was just shocked because he's like, well, I'm obviously not the first Black person to go through this here.
Yeah.
So how have the other, people of color handled this? And how did it all end up work out for them? And because he understands all the healthcare lingo and all of that, it still just doesn't make sense. He was explaining a lot of things to me, and also he does a lot of research into that, just healthcare in general, whether it's here in Canada or America or whatever. He likes keeping up to date. So him explaining to me and telling me what's happening and whatever, and hearing stats and all of that is kind of shocking. So I think for him, he kind of just had a better understanding of the healthcare system here. And that also has sort of like pushed him into wanting change and all of that. So he's, doing his own things on, regarding that on the side. But I think with my friends here in Canada, I feel like it was a shock to them, or it's like, oh no, well, these are the responses I got, like, oh no, are you sure that happened? And I'm just like, yeah, because it happened to me. So it was a lot of explaining and re-explaining and kind of assuring them that this did happen.
Yes.
Or this is the response that I got or whatever. So there was a lot of like shock and surprise on their end. And for me, it was just like, is it because, once again, because people of color, because people of color here we're a minority. So you've never heard of stories, regarding people of color, going through horrific things and,
and
with
the bias in the healthcare system,
is it lack of information? Which, yes. I guess. So it was going through the grief, but also explaining to them what happened and why it happened.
Yeah.
It was draining.
Yes.
It was draining.
Yes.
Like it is all the time, talking about these things. And I mean, yes, so there was the grief. There was, I think also I was just angry that you're supposed to, like, I'm trusting my body, my health to people who have studied for years, healthcare and whatever. And once again, you still walk away without answers. And I feel like the answers are not that difficult, really, or shouldn't be. And I mean, I would rather have someone say to me, I don't know, but I can go research and find out and, educate myself so that I can let you know. But you don't get that at all. It's just silence. So I think a lot of anger, but also sadness because once again, I know I'm not the only one who has gone through this or who will go through this. And you kind of just hope that, well, I hope my kids who are mixed, one day when they need attention, medical attention, that hopefully that there will be answers then. It's anger, sadness, and just also sometimes just regret, because I remember saying to my husband a lot of times, I'm like, why did we move here? Like why? Like we were fine back home. There was care back home and questions were answered. And so, there was a bit of regret. But I mean, here we are now. So
what do you feel you learned about yourself during these experiences, and resilience, or it's the opposite, sometimes like we're kind of forced to have the strong Black women trope. So, but what did you feel, you've learned about yourself and the process?
I'm just amazed at the female body.
Yes.
Actually.
Yeah.
Like, you think your body, and then you go through that and you're like, okay, we can deal with difficult things. yeah, I think I learned a lot about my body, and just how much I can go through, what, like, just the pain and the, like, yeah. I mean, just thinking about the miscarriage and, like, sitting on the toilet and just like, and so just that whole process, I'm fascinated by our bodies.
Yeah.
It's our bodies can do a lot, and I'm just grateful. But I think you kind of just dig deep into that whole, like, oh, Black women are strong, and kind of have to just keep going. I think that's
that's good learning.
And I think for me, I mean, at the time, my relationship with my mom was a lot better than it is now. But it's funny because I didn't tell her that I had a miscarriage. I think she kind of just figured it out. And she just said to me, keep going, just keep going. You're strong, so just keep going. And I'm like, I'm tired. Yeah. Actually, that's what I am.
Let me rest.
Yeah. Like, yes, we're all strong, but I'm tired, actually. And I think at the time it's not something that I needed to hear or wanted to hear.
Exactly.
But I'm tired. Like, I'm tired of being strong. I just want to be. And I think it taught me to kind of just sit in my feelings and deal with, like, feel the emotions, which was very difficult because, you want to block it out. You want to just, just not remember because it was traumatic. But I think, I remember I had to sit in my feelings because, once again, we're also grieving, the loss of a family member. So there was just a lot of emotion, like, it was very tense, and, I had to be strong because I had to be strong for my husband.
Yes.
But I also had to be strong for myself. And I remember there were days where I was in bed. I remember the one day I woke up, it was like 3 p.m. And I'm like, I should probably go shower. I need to get out of this bed. But yeah.
What advice would you give to other women who've experienced miscarriages or has gone through similar grief?
The more we talk about it, the more comfortable we'll be.
Yes.
And I mean, for me personally, I don't mind talking about it. Like, I don't mind sharing my story, but that's just me.
Yes,
like, I'm a very transparent person. Like, whatever. Like, we all go through stuff. Life happens to all of us. It's just different. But I think talking about it more, having more of these conversations. And I mean, I don't even know if this is a thing, but have, like, support groups. Like, are there support groups out there? I don't know.
I know. I didn't even really look, to be honest.
True, I haven't.
But I also wanted to do it in a space with Black women, and I don't think that that's there here. Yeah.
So support groups. But also having a community of friends who will support you. And I mean, having us come from South Africa is a very, it's a community-based country. Like, we know your neighbors, and kids are playing out on the street. It's just, that's the kind of vibe it is there. Here, it's totally different. I feel like people live in silos here.
Yes.
People are just very self-focused, and so making friends here is very difficult.
Yes.
So building community is very difficult, but wherever you can is, once you have that community, once you have your people, once you have found your people, I think even in those communities, even in your group of friends, is have these conversations. Like, I feel like these conversations shouldn't be left for special occasions, like having a podcast, which I'm grateful that, there are podcasts out there who are talking about this more and openly and all of that. But it starts at home. It starts in your friendship groups and with your families and all of that. So I think, talking about it more and also being sensitive to people of color who have gone through stuff with the medical system. And when we hear those stories, just, I don't know. I mean, I want to say offer help, but how? Because I don't know, like you might find people who want to help, but I don't know. They don't know where to start because I don't even know where to start. Right. But I don't know. So starting with talking about it more, but I think there needs to be more information about it from the medical system. Like, I don't know, starting with pamphlets, flyers, I don't know, but it's something. I feel like the medical system needs to offer us something as well. And I don't think there is anything out there. Because I mean, it's one thing, being told you've had a miscarriage, and then they kind of give you the option, like, oh, you can have a DNC, or you can just let nature do its course. And it's like, oh, okay, but wait, what is a DNC? And not having these conversations in the hallway or in the waiting room. So we need we need those details.
And that starts with conversation.
Yes.
And advocating.
Yes. And it's funny because I have a friend who is a labor and delivery nurse at the hospital that I gave birth at. And she has noticed more now with people of color that not only just with miscarriages, but even once they've given birth, they don't know what to do. And not to say that I knew what to do, because I mean, but something as simple as holding your baby, like she was saying that new moms, when they bring your baby to you, they didn't want to hold their newborn because they were too scared. And so she's like, she has seen so much of this that something needs to change. And I've been having this conversation with her for a while, and I'm like, well, what are you going to do about it? Because you're in the system, you're in there, you're in there, you're seeing this firsthand. Like what can be done? What can you do that will have a ripple effect within your, and I'm grateful that she is now starting to ask the questions and do the things. So I think we need more people like that. So more of the nurses, more of the doctors in the medical system. We need more of them to also start asking the questions and, I don't know, doing what needs to be done so that we can confidently approach them, and when we have questions, hopefully get answers. Sorry, I don't know if that answered the question.
No, I love it. It's so good. How has this experience shaped your views on motherhood and your hopes for the future?
Motherhood is hard. It really is. And I just think it's so sad that after you've gone through a miscarriage and gone through the trauma and emotional, stuff, that, you fall pregnant again, and it's almost like there's this expectation of like, oh no, you have a baby now, so it's fine.
Aren't you good? Aren't you good?
And I'm just like, no.
That still happened.
It still happened. This is now part of my story. Like my baby would have been 5 years old this year.
Wow.
Like it happened. So I think going forward for me, motherhood is just hard. It's emotionally draining. Because I'm like, well, do I tell my toddler that, she would have had an older sister or brother?
You know, like, it's just all these questions that I don't have answers to. And so I don't know. I am just taking it a day at a time. Trying to be the best parent I can be. But obviously, you know, wanting to grow my family and still having miscarriages. So it's an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't know if I have an answer for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to have an answer.
Yeah,
honestly,
it's a day at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, doing this podcast is a start. And I think opening up that conversation for people to hear our stories, to be able to understand that we're also trying to figure it out. There's no answer. And I think that as we try to navigate this healthcare system, navigate our emotions and try to figure things out, when we do it in community, that's when we'll be able to see a change as well. So thank you so much for sharing your story. Really appreciate you coming out here. I know it's not a topic that, you know, that really a lot of people talk about, but I really appreciate your vulnerability to be able to express yourself and what happened. And yeah, I think that this is definitely going to help someone somewhere, whoever our listeners are, to be able to understand what happens, and you're not alone. And, you know, like I said, 1 in 3 women experience miscarriage. And so it is more common than you think. Yeah, thank you so much for being here, Thandi.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me. And sorry, I think this will actually answer the question, is I think as women, we just need to know that it's not our fault.
Yes.
I think that just to, you know, end off with that, it's not our fault. It's not your body has not failed you. And I think for the longest time, that's something that I had to just keep reminding myself that my body did not fail me.
Yes.
Like, once again, we don't know how miscarriages happen, right? Because there's no information about it.
Yeah.
So it's not your fault. Your body has not failed you. And yeah, like we spoke about it, I really dislike it when they say, you can just try again. Yes, you can just try again, but no, let's deal with this first.
Yes.
So yeah, I think just knowing that it's okay, like you'll be okay. And yeah, I think surrounding yourself with positive people, but also people who friends who will help you fight.
Yes.
Friends who will help you speak up. Friends who will help you, you know, understand and, you know, but also advocate for you.
Yes.
And I think that's helpful, especially for us as immigrants who, once again, still trying to understand how things work here. Excuse me. So, yeah, it's not our fault. And you'll be okay. We'll get through it. And I mean, being pregnant and having a baby, it's such a blessing. Honestly, it really is. And I think what saddens me is those women there are women out there who have miscarriages and just don't fall pregnant again.
Yes.
So I mean, that's a whole
another conversation.
Yes. But yeah. So thanks for having me.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, it was really
Thank you both for your short stories.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Wow. So thank you so much again, Thandi, for sharing your story with us, for our listeners. Your openness and your vulnerability was truly inspiring, and especially during this time of remembrance and awareness. So thank you so much to our listeners. If you know someone who's been affected by pregnancy or infant loss, please know that you're not alone. Like we just said, we encourage you to seek support and connect with others. You can find Thandi on what social media platform?
Oh, goodness. Instagram. I'm not a TikTok person. Like check in every now and again. But yeah, I'm mostly active on Instagram.
What's your handle?
My handle is Thandi, so THANDI _ what _what, because my surname's Watkins, and I didn't realize there were like 5 million Thandis out there. But yeah, so it's Thandi _what on Instagram.
Perfect. So thank you for tuning in to this important conversation. Remember that you can find us on all podcast streaming platforms, and you can watch the video on our YouTube channel, Black Women Connect Vancouver. Until next time, thank you, everyone. Bye. Thank you for listening to our podcast episode. You can find us on all streaming platforms, and you can watch our video recording up on YouTube channel, Black Women Connect Vancouver. Until next time.